Hello, I'm Mr. Wyman, and I'm going to read for you another Wonder Women of History. And this one is about Emma Willard. She was a teacher, and she lived from 1787 to 1876, which is 100 years after our independence, right? And she was born shortly after the Revolutionary War. Emma Willard was the great emancipator of the minds of women. At a time when the only education deemed necessary for girls was reading, writing, and arithmetic, this daring young school mistress took up her fight for the higher education of her sex, women. Single-handed, Emma Willard blasted the 19th century myth that women's minds are inferior and demonstrated that women's minds are the equal of men's. Her valiant efforts paved the way for women's high schools and colleges, raising women to their rightful place beside men as doctors, lawyers, teachers, scientists, and intelligent wives and mothers. Born on February 23rd, 1787, at Berlin, Connecticut, to Captain Samuel and Lydia Hinsdale Hart, Emma made her first acquaintance with books at the Hart fireside. And that's enough reading for tonight, children. Off to bed now, says this gentleman sitting next to the fire. And here's a woman. Psst, Samuel, look at Emma. She's more interested than any of the other boys, or any of the others, even the boys. And look, and here's Emma, I believe, like paying close attention to, probably he was maybe reading to the children, and the other kids are just playing. However, when poor little book-hungry Emma grew old enough for school, and then this is happening, here's a teacher, and the girls will learn all that accomplished young ladies should know: sewing, painting, reading, and writing. Naturally, no difficult subjects. That doesn't sound right. But at 12, Emma taught herself the most difficult of all boys' subjects, geometry. And the answer to that is 2 times or 36. Why, that's perfectly correct, child. So he looks very astonished, and here she is doing work at the blackboard. At 15, Emma attended Miners Academy. At 17, she was teaching school. At 20, she was put in charge of one of the first schools for girls in the country in Middlebury, Vermont. But the school soon encountered the hostile, which means like angry or some like conflict, attitude of the townspeople. So they didn't like what was happening here. Humph! Look at those girls aping men. I'm not sure what that might mean. Disgraceful. Education for young ladies detracts from their refinement and charm. That Hart woman is corrupting our girls. So they thought that smart girls weren't as attractive or as good as girls who didn't have an education, or it made them look less pretty, is what these people are suggesting. Very silly, wrong, unclassy. And soon, in government circles, why young ladies are not strong enough to learn. Their health will be impaired. It's hard to believe that people actually thought these things. There's just one thing to do: close the school. Oh yeah, that'll help everything, huh? So silly. Emma protested. Education does not harm the health of young ladies, and it makes them more charming, if anything, by making them better companions for men. One of the town's leading citizens, John Willard, came to Emma's defense. I'm impressed with your work, Miss Hart. I'll use my influence, and I promise you the school will not be closed. You're so understanding, Mr. Willard. Thank you. So now we have Emma in a carriage here, Emma proved the soundness of her theory on charm and education when you're the first woman I've known who can discuss politics and history intelligently with me, and I love it. Emma, will you marry me? Yes, John. So John Willard was so impressed with Emma's work and who she was that he proposed to her. In August 10th, 1809, Emma Hart gave up teaching to become Mrs. John Willard. Next year, a baby John was born to the couple. When her husband lost his money shortly after, Emma opened a boarding school for girls in her own home. Boarding means that girls stayed with her in her home and she taught them, a boarding school. She taught them. And here you have a woman reading Macbeth by William Shakespeare, which is very difficult to read. And maybe back in the day, they thought that girls might not be able to read that kind of text because it's so tricky or difficult. She dared to introduce masculine subjects. Masculine means male or like boys or men, right? And this looks like drawing some geography. That might be like Africa, and they're drawing the continents and learning about the world. And here you've got some good math going on. And between classes, as school physician, I see that our pupils get the proper rest, but you won't, Emma. So this, a physician is like a nurse or doctor, and it looks like Emma is just working, constantly reading tirelessly. But John, we can't, oh, is that John? John the doctor? But John, we can't afford to hire professors, and I must study the subjects myself before I can teach them. But with the ending of the school year, you've done a magnificent job, Mrs. Willard. Why, our daughter amazes us with her intelligent conversation. Yet she's more charming and ladylike than ever. So they're quite pleased with what's happening here. In 1819, Emma sent Governor DeWitt Clinton of New York a plan for state-supported schools for girls. That means taxpayer money would go toward schools that would educate women, girls. Very unusual, but I'm all for it. I'm going to recommend this plan to the legislature. So we've been learning about this. Legislature would be the lawmakers. So she talked to the governor first, and then the governor is going to present this idea to the lawmakers, and then they can make up laws to make it happen. The measure was bitterly attacked. Book learning won't help women to knit stockings or make puddings, and it would only encourage them to rival men. Rival means to challenge, to go against men, and like maybe they were afraid that women would take the men's jobs, that kind of thing. Here means like I agree. The legislature voted no funds, but did grant a charter to the Waterford Academy for Young Ladies, the first legislative measure recognizing women's right to a higher education. So charter means that they were able to start a school. In 1821, she left Waterford to open the Troy Female Seminary. Slowly, Emma won over the public by holding public examinations of her pupils. So won over the public means like she convinced the attitude of the public. She convinced them to change their attitude and got them to like the idea of higher education for women. When did Napoleon come into power, and what were some of his reforms? Is a question. In 1799, he established the Bank of France, and this shows off how much knowledge this girl had. Remarkable. I didn't think young ladies had it in them, and all this knowledge doesn't seem to be affecting their health one bit. It's so silly that men thought that like women becoming smart and learning would actually affect their health. but people had crazy ideas at times in history. As the school's fame spread, I've been saving my money on the farm for months to come here, Mrs. Willard. Ah, had to talk Dad into sending me way up here from Georgia. Oh, so they wrote an accent into this. I had to talk Dad. Oh, I had to talk Dad into sending me way up here from Georgia. I can't do it. um, I have no money, but please let me enroll. So you see, like a variety of different ladies trying to get into Emma's school. Emma trained her own teachers from among her pupils, starting the first teachers' training school. Dr. Willard died on May 29th, 1825, but bravely Emma carried on alone. Girls with money can now get an education, but what of girls who can't afford one? We need public schools for girls. That would mean taxpayer money going toward educating women, girls. Emma's determined fight paved the way not only for public schools, but Vassar, Elmira, Wesleyan. I think that might be another language. Emma spent her last days in a little red brick house near the seminary at Troy, where her girls were always welcome. And remember, girls, knowledge is a useful servant all through your lives. Gather as much of it as you can. So she's getting older, and here teachers are visiting her, and she's encouraging them to constantly learn, read, and always make yourself better and better. It's good for you. This Wonder Woman forced the world to recognize her sex, all women, as thinking individuals, and not only led to their invading the so-called men's professions, but gave intelligent voice to their age-old hatred of one man's profession, war. Educated women are one of the greatest factors in the fight for the advancement of social progress. Is it any wonder, then, that the world owes a debt of gratitude to Emma Willard, educator of women? And not only led to their invading the so-called men's professions, but gave intelligent voice to their age-old hatred of one man's profession, war. So what they're saying here in this comic, Wonder Woman comic, is the idea of basically giving women power and voice and kind of speaking out against war and violence, really. And they, in this comic, they're suggesting that one of man's, like men or masculine or male things, is the idea or profession would be a job, profession or job of war. So back when this was written, there weren't as many women in the military as there is today. And that's what they're getting at. It opened or paved the way and opened the door for women to not only become educated, but also to be in the military and to work at helping the military and the government not go to war, right? To save lives. So I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about Emma Willard. She was a real power, a force for women's education.